Welcome to the Pink Pill RX podcast, hosted by Katie and Jay Fillmore, where we navigate complex and thought-provoking topics surrounding women with a focus on education. For shorter form content, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at Caters88 or Pink Pill RX.
That's KATORS 88.
If you enjoy this podcast, please give us a follow and maybe a nice review.
Okay, episode 15.
15.
We always say the number like
That's a big deal.
we do this every single time.
We are an adolescent podcast. 15. Can't even drive yet. But you know what? We got a permit and we're learning.
Hey, we're in the charts. We are in the podcast charts.
I know. You go ahead and pontificate on that.
It is just, I'll tell you how we found out. It was the craziest thing. We got an email from a content creator management company, and they were like, hey, we saw you in the charts. Do you have anybody who does your content management? And I was like, the charts? What charts do you speak of? I did not say that to her because I have to be professional and act like I'm bigger than I am. However, I then ran to the charts.
Ran.
In the society and culture charts on Apple, we change all the time, but currently we're at 126. The closest we've gotten is 109.
Mm-hmm. And it's the top 200 chart. That's as high as it,
That's as high as it goes,
range.
and it's out of 106,666 podcasts. So, guys, thank you, because it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And we're an adolescent podcast. We can't even drive, like he said.
No, it's all because of the listeners. It's a combination. It's the ratings. It's the number of listeners, number of downloads, and everything. So
there's a lot of engagement.
Yeah, it has to do with you all who are listening and interacting with the podcast. So thank you very much. We feel about 10 feet tall right now.
Yes, I was tickled.
You know, to humanize this even further, just so everybody knows, we currently are out of state. We went to Michigan for a couple days because we're parents and we needed some respite away from our kids, particularly in the winter when kids won't go play outside.
Yeah, we had to get away from the kiddos,
Yeah.
which sounds awful, but you know what? You got to do what you got to do because we got to, in order to be the good parents, we have to be the self-aware parents that know that we need a break.
Yeah. And those of you who are parents listening, I'm sure you know what we're talking about.
Now let's dive into today's episode. Have you ever heard of the term dressing for the male gaze?
I've heard of the male gaze, but not dressing for the male gaze.
You probably could guess what that means.
Yeah, I think so.
Guess.
It's when you're picking out what to wear, but it's based off of how you want to be viewed by men.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So dressing for the male gaze refers to the practice of women choosing clothing or styling themselves primarily to appeal to heterosexual male desire and preferences. It was like a term that was coined. So there's a lot of debate around this term and some angst around this term. But in general, that's what it means. So it's wearing outfits that emphasize sexualized body parts, like outfits that highlight breasts, legs, curves, often tight-fitting clothing, outfits that reveal more skin, low-cut tops, shorts, skirts, high heels that accentuate legs, figure-hugging dresses, plunging necklines, push-up bras, crop tops paired with high-waisted bottoms. That's my style, man. But I feel good. See, that's the thing. I do feel like you can dress the way that you want to dress and it not necessarily be for the male gaze. However, I probably do dress for the male. I dress for your gaze, my crop tops, my high-waisted bottoms. But those are just some examples of dressing for the male gaze. The concept of this male gaze was first articulated by a film theorist, Laura Mulvey, in 1975, and has since been applied to various forms of media and social interactions, and it critiques how women are often portrayed as passive objects of male desire rather than active subjects with their own perspectives and desires. Dressing for the male gaze can have a negative psychological impact on women, including increased body shame, self-objectification, even reduced cognitive performance.
Whoa.
It can also perpetuate gender inequality by reinforcing the idea that women's worth is primarily tied to their physical appearance and sexual appeal to men.
Mm-hmm.
It can contribute to social physique anxiety, self-objectification, because women can internalize the observer's perspective of their physical selves. It can cause an increase in body surveillance and negative self-image, of course. It comes with a higher risk of depression, eating disorders, and sexual dysfunction. And this messaging is everywhere. The male gaze messaging is everywhere. It's prevalent in media, advertising, pop culture. It can even make women feel unsafe and anxious in public spaces. Now, Gen Z is increasingly rejecting the male gaze. They are the reason I wear high-waisted pants, mom-looking jeans, and crop tops. Gen Z gave me the confidence, man, to do that. I've said that so many times that I am indebted to Gen Z for my current style. Now, Gen Z has since moved on, I feel like. But as a classic millennial, I'm stuck.
Yeah.
I am where I am, and I like it. I've also come into my permanent hairstyle, I feel like, when somebody just kind of meets their final form, and then that's just...
I was going to say that.
That's the way they look now.
Final form.
Like you and your hat. You've been in your final form for like 10 years.
Well, the hat, yes, but I feel like I got a watch, and I've been feeling the watch. And
the
I feel
watch
like
is a big deal.
It's making my final form. I'm shifting my form again a little bit.
Yeah.
More mature.
How long have you owned that hat?
Oh my gosh, this feels a little vulnerable because it's been a long time.
Because it feels like, does it feel like an extension of yourself or your body?
Maybe. I have to think about it. I don't know that it does, but maybe it does. How long do you think I've had this hat?
I think 10 years.
So 2014?
Yeah.
Longer.
2012?
Longer.
No. 2009?
No, gosh.
Oh my gosh, because it's such a difference.
Not the 2000s.
Okay.
It was 2010 and 2011. I can't remember. And I've tried, guys, okay, I have tried other slouchy beanies. I've Amazoned a plethora, tried them all on. They're either too short or they're too tight or whatever.
Yeah.
I got this at Marshall's.
Anybody have any beanie recommendations, or can we please, for the love of God, find another beanie so I don't have to, like, the same exact beanie? Why you look? Because then I don't have to deal with as much of the panic of where's my hat.
Yeah.
Because we have two hats.
If I can find one that I like this, I'll just buy several. I'm just going to buy several. Maybe even a couple different colors. Here's the thing. What people don't know is I've tried other hats. I tried what I call the Papa hat. I tried a fedora for a while back with like hipsters and stuff. Baseball hat's okay, but I don't feel like I really pull off a baseball hat. I like the Panama, but I can't pull off the Panama.
Well, I like your hat. I'm not dogging the hat.
Oh, I know.
I don't like the hat anxiety that comes with the hat.
Yep.
So I want a second
Here's
hat.
The thing. I have two others, but they're not like this one.
Our children will imitate Jay, and anytime they imitate him, they have something on their head like a hat.
Mm-hmm.
They have dressed up their Barbies like you, like Ken dolls like you, and put a sock on their head.
Yeah, that was so funny.
Anyways, I had a follower reach out to me, and she wanted me to look into something. And she wanted me to look into tight clothing.
Okay.
And it got me thinking, okay, tight clothing. My web of connection thought, well, that's dressing for the male gaze a lot of times. And hence why I brought up the male gaze.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of emphasis on tight clothing and snug fit clothing. But she wanted me to look into tight clothing because tight clothing can dysregulate the nervous system.
Really?
Leading to various health issues and discomfort. So it affects the autonomic nervous system, causes disruption. Okay, so tight garments such as bras can alter your heart rate variability, which indicates that there's an autonomic nervous system disruption happening. Pressure from the tight clothing may enhance sympathetic nervous system activity, leading to increased stress hormone production.
Oh, that's not good. Like cortisol?
Yeah. And then, of course, you got sensory stuff that you could throw in there, But some physical symptoms of tight clothing, there's something called, I'm going to butcher this word. I'm going to have to shoot in the dark with how you pronounce this. Meralgia parasthetica, which is a lateral femoral nerve entrapment, basically, is what it is. And it causes this burning, tingling, or numbness feeling on your outer thigh. And it can result from tight pants compressing those nerves. Restricted blood flow due to tight clothing can lead to poor circulation and potential nerve damage. Wearing tight clothing can trigger that stress response in the body, so that discomfort and restriction can activate that sympathetic nervous system, leading to a state of chronic stress. And this prolonged stress response can contribute to anxiety, irritability, and difficulty concentrating, which I'm wondering if that's where the difficulty, like the cognitive stuff, comes in that I mentioned from the male gaze.
Oh, interesting.
I wonder if that has anything to do with it whatsoever. It can also affect the digestive system. So that pressure on the abdomen can exacerbate like IBS and Crohn's disease and GERD. So the chronic wearing of tight clothing may have long-lasting effects basically on the nervous system, long story short.
Poor emo kids in high school when we went to high school.
Yeah. Oh, here's a huge thing. This is just blew my mind. So dysautonomia, which is a huge issue that's getting bigger and bigger for women especially. And I have suspected I have a form of dysautonomia. The ongoing stress on the body from tight clothing can contribute to that.
Dang.
We also know, as far as like clothes go, they're designed for the male gaze because like look at what's available on the market.
That's a good point.
Also, fancy panties, anything that's not cotton is not good for your downstairs.
So I never thought they would make underwear that wasn't cotton. Like silk?
Oh, yeah, like spandex, polyester. There's so many elements of our clothing that is not even healthy for us.
Dang. Can I ask a question with that?
Uh-huh.
As a man? So if that wasn't a thing, not dressing, if dressing for the male gaze was not a thing, you said you don't really do that because you like your style and then you wear that, but you do it because you do it for me though. But let's say, take me out of it. Mm-hmm. What would you wear all the time if there was no male gaze?
Well, you would dress for the female gaze, which is your own gaze, which refers to choosing clothing and styling yourself in a way that prioritizes your personal expression.
Okay. And
your comfort and creativity and not catering to the heterosexual male preferences. So this is typically what it looks like. There's an emphasis on individuality and self-expression. Mm-hmm. It prioritizes comfort and personal preferences. Usually they're bold and creative choices in colors, patterns, and textures. Sometimes it can even be avant-garde with eccentric styles and stuff.
What does avant-garde mean?
It's high fashion, but really out there.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
It's people walking down the runway in a paper bag, but making it look good.
All that stuff. Yeah, okay.
So a lot of it is attention to details that other women would notice and appreciate, but men probably wouldn't.
Whoa, okay. Okay, that's something.
Yes, and there's less focus on revealing or accentuating certain body parts. So like a maxi skirt paired with a chunky knit sweater, or baggy jeans, or unique accessories and jewelry, a playful mix of patterns and unexpected pairings. So like different prints and stuff that typically maybe wouldn't go together.
Kind of like a 90s style, like do a zebra and a leopard or something?
Yeah. Long story short, there's this emphasis, though, on the personal style rather than the conventional attractiveness.
Yeah. That sounds like, to me, that sounds like when you're naming off these things, that sounds kind of fun to look at. Like it's kind of like you're wearing artwork, Like it's kind of...
Yeah.
It seems interesting and fun.
Do you feel like you dress for your own gaze?
Huh. I dress with what makes me feel good about myself. Or like I feel good in, confident and...
How often do you think,
interesting,
will other people think I look good in this?
Let me think for a moment here. Not very often. Maybe like 2 or 3 times in a month. Maybe.
And what is that thought process like?
I hope somebody compliments my outfit. Because I feel really good about it.
If I'm being completely transparent, and this makes me really self-conscious, that's a daily thought for me. I think about how I will be perceived in what I'm wearing. Will men be attracted to me? That's not even what I'm even talking about necessarily, but like, will I be taken seriously if I wear this outfit to my kid's school? Or will there be conclusions drawn about me based on this outfit?
Wow. That's complex.
There's a lot of thought that
Whoa.
it's second nature. Another thing that's common is being aware that, like, I don't want to attract too much attention either. So, like, I will not wear, like, if I'm not with you, I'm not wearing something that's going to be showing a ton of cleavage.
Mm-hmm. Because you don't want that. You don't want eyes being drawn to yourself from guys you don't know.
Yeah, because it doesn't feel safe.
Yeah. I didn't know that. You're really walking a tightrope. Like a little bit too far on this side, it's not good, and a little bit too far on that side's not good. Like you're always having to just be so conscious in like how much energy goes into those decisions.
It's exhausting.
You know, I don't know how true this is. I heard this years ago that some very hyper successful people, in terms of like economically or business or whatever, will wear the same outfit every day and just have different, like the same thing, but multiple copies of the same thing to wear, because it takes that decision making out of your brain so you can have more energy left for decision making for whatever venture you're in.
Yeah.
And so, but if you have all this energy that goes into these choices, not because you want to express yourself, but because you have to think about all these other people's responses to it, that's a lot of energy of thinking that you don't have now for other decisions.
The other thing is, this is not just all about like vanity and like how I'm being perceived either on like a vanity level or an attractiveness level. It's also a safety thing. So like we have to be aware of how we're being perceived, because if we aren't, we could be potentially putting ourselves in an unsafe situation.
Man, that is hard.
Because Lord forbid something happens to you and you're showing some cleavage because you're just asking for it then.
Oh, man. It's like you're playing defense all the time.
Yeah. Dressing for the female gaze, you could probably guess some of the positive side effects that would have. So women who dress for the female gaze report increased confidence and comfort, a greater level of self-expression and creativity. They felt less objectified or sexualized. They felt like it was a celebration of diverse body types and personal styles. And in the end, they enjoyed doing it because it felt like it was authentic. And because it was authentic, it felt empowering to the individual rather than adhering to like a strict set of rules put out by somebody else.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It seems like it would be just a much happier of a vibe.
I just can't get over the fact that female clothing isn't even designed really for females.
Yeah.
Because so much of it is designed for the male gaze.
Yeah. Yeah, they make it because they know that like women will buy it because they've been conditioned to dress for the male gaze. That's the type of clothes they make.
And comfort is low on the totem pole when it comes to clothes in women. We don't get pockets.
I was just thinking about pockets. Like I was thinking, how do I fit pockets into this? Because you know, if it was designed with pockets, it's designed with a woman in mind.
Thank you. This is true. Speaking of designing for women, though, so much of this world is not designed for women. And I would like to dive into a couple things that aren't designed for women. PPE, personal protective equipment. That's what that stands for.
That's a little triggering from
our
collective COVID experience.
Well, great news. You would have been more protected than us.
Because let me guess, it fits me better?
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
It does. It uses the standard U.S. male adult face shape. The same thing for eyes, like eyewear is designed based on men. It does not fit most women adequately, but it also doesn't fit a lot of Black and minority ethnic men either. In a 2017 report, they found that the problem with ill-fitting PPE was worse in the emergency services, where only 5% of women said that their PPE never hampered their work. With body armor, stab vests, high-vis vests, and jackets all highlighted as completely unsuitable. So we're talking about female police officers here not having stab or bulletproof vests that fit them properly because they're designed for a male chest. What does a male chest not have that a female chest has?
Breasts.
And those breasts cause gaps, which then makes them vulnerable to attacks.
You think you want police officers to have the best protection, or medical professionals to have the best protection?
There are female police officers that have come out and revealed that they've had to have breast reduction surgery because of the health effects of wearing their body armor.
Jeez. And I'm sure the department didn't pay for that.
Yeah, well, so there's this one woman, specific police officer that came forward and was talking about this, and right after that, 700 other police officers came forward complaining about the same standard issue protective vest.
Whoa, man. Gosh, that is obviously a widespread problem.
This has been on the radar for over 20 years as being a problem. British female police officers report being bruised by their kit belts, and a number have had to have physiotherapy because of the way their stab vests sit on their body. And many complain that there's no space for their breasts, like I said earlier. And this isn't only uncomfortable, it results in those stab vests coming up too short and leaving women unprotected.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Because the vest is pushed more forward, which means it is raised up a little bit.
Yeah.
Huh.
And they've known this for decades, and they've not really made strides to fix it. I'm just going to run through a list of these.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll just listen.
The piano is designed for the male hand. Women who have smaller hands struggle, and women have smaller hands than men on average. But the piano is made specifically for one-size-fits-all men, not one-size-fits-all. So if you have a hard time reaching those keys, honey, it's not your fault. It was designed that way. The average smartphone size is now 5.5 inches. Now, the average man's hand can fit that fairly comfortably with one hand. The average woman hand is not much bigger than the handset itself. So it makes it harder for a woman to actually be able to use their phone using one hand. So if I'm holding my phone, I'm usually using this hand, maybe my thumb. But it's hard to reach around.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes in mine, I struggle to reach all the way across to like a letter on the left side of the keyboard with my right thumb. It must be a lot harder for you.
Yeah. So in the United States, 95% of women own smartphones compared to 94% of men. So technically women own more smartphones.
Oh, that's interesting.
With iPhones holding a 58.81% market share overall.
Mm-hmm.
Yet they continue to design their phone specifically with the male hand dimensions in mind. 51% of Apple's smartphone users were female.
Do they make different sizes for iPhones? They used to, I know.
They do have different sizes, yes, but the newer ones that keep coming out are, when you average them all together, 5.5 inches, which is based off of a man's hand.
Didn't used to be that. I remember the original iPhones were a lot smaller.
I know, it was like smaller was better.
Yeah, that was
Those
the trend.
were the days.
Yeah, those were the days.
But good news. I have good news for you. Okay, the screens probably won't get much bigger because they've hit the limit of what the man's hand size can tolerate. Next thing, gym equipment, sizes and proportions. So many strength training machines are designed for larger body sizes, making them uncomfortable or even ineffective for women. So for example, grip sizes and handles on like pull-up bars and tricep dip stations are often too large for women's hands, which affects the performance and the safety of the movement.
Oh, yeah, safety, I would think, for sure.
Seat adjustments. So some machines lack sufficient adjustability to be able to accommodate shorter individuals, which predominantly affects women. And the weight increments, the weight stacks on the machines are often large increments, making it difficult for women to progress gradually, increasing their risk for harm.
Yeah.
Bicycle seats, cycling saddles are often designed for male anatomy, which leads to discomfort and potential injuries for women.
Yeah.
Some treadmills may not account for the differences in women's gait or stride length. It's more based off of a man's gait and stride length.
Okay.
So the speeds that correlate are based off of a man's gait and how far they can step. So the lack of the female-focused design, specifically in gym equipment, is due to the underrepresentation of women in sports science research.
That is a huge safety issue, gym equipment.
Yeah, because it doesn't just lead to like discomfort and improper form. It's a safety. It's a risk of injury.
You're gonna injure. Yeah, you're gonna pull something, tear something, fall, something. You know, I mean, all kinds of stuff.
Now, some companies are trying to address that issue, and there is an increased design on focusing equipment with adjustability for diverse body types in general.
That's good.
And there's just a growing awareness, which is encouraging.
Yeah.
Okay. Temperature.
Like outside temperature?
Like inside temperature.
Thermostat?
Specifically at work, inside temperature.
Okay.
So the formula to determine the standard office temperature. We're thinking bigger companies here. Okay. There's a formula.
Okay.
To keep workers happy while also maximizing savings. Okay.
This is fascinating. I never would have thought this would have been calculated like a cost analysis or something. This is interesting. Hit me with the formula.
Okay. Well, I don't have the mathematical formula.
Oh, okay.
But I can tell you that they did this in the 1960s, and it was based off the metabolic resting rate of the average man.
Okay.
But a recent Dutch study found that the metabolic rate of young adult females performing light office work is significantly lower than the standard values for men doing the same activity. In fact, the formula may overestimate female metabolic rate by as much as 35%, meaning that current offices are on average 5 degrees too cold for women.
5?
5 degrees. And this leads to the odd sight of female office workers wrapped in blankets and piled with sweaters.
Whoa. 5 degrees that's a really large difference in temperature.
Okay, work exposure. Over the last 50 years, breast cancer rates in the industrialized world have risen significantly. But a failure to research female bodies, occupations, and environments means that the data for exactly what is behind this is lacking. Rory O'Neill, professor of occupational and environmental policy research at the University of Stirling, says, "We know everything about dust disease in minors. You can't say the same for exposures, physical or chemical, in women's workplace." Meaning that like there's a lot of things that men suffer from in the workplace that we know a lot more about than women. So cancer is a long latency disease, O'Neill says. So even if we started the studies now, it would take a working generation before we had any usable data. But we aren't starting the studies now. Instead, we continue to rely on data from studies done on men as if they apply to women in the workplace.
Yeah.
Specifically, men and women have different immune systems and hormones, which play a huge role in how chemicals are absorbed.
Oh.
Women tend to be smaller than men and have thinner skin, both of which can lower the level of toxins they can be safely exposed to.
Okay. Whoa.
This lower tolerance threshold is compounded by women's higher percentage of body fat, in which some chemicals can accumulate. So a lot of chemicals love fat and like to be stored there. Mm-hmm. And so women naturally have a higher percentage of body fat, even if you're fit. Like women just have a higher percentage body fat evolutionarily. So things build up in those fat stores. And then chemicals are still usually tested in isolation and on the basis of a single exposure. That's not usually how they encounter them. You don't typically, if you're working at a job where you're being exposed to chemicals, it's typically not a one-time exposure.
Yeah.
Women often experience double exposure, something called double exposure to cancer-causing chemicals, because not only do they potentially deal with them at work, which, by the way, is way worse for immigrant women, but They also then go home and deal with cleaning chemicals, since women statistically do most of the housework.
Yeah.
So now they're being exposed at home too. So it's double exposure.
But no studies are really being conducted about it.
No.
Even though you said originally that breast cancer occurrence rates have been going up for decades?
Yes. Specifically, they go up about 1% annually.
Oh my, that is terrifying.
Now listen to this. The increase is steeper for women under 50 years old. It's 1.4%.
No, so whatever it is getting worse.
Yeah. For younger people, they're getting exposed.
Yeah. What in the world is it? Do you think it's in female care products? Could it be the lead or the arsenic in tampons?
I mean, pick your
Pick your-
poison.
yeah.
Literally,
The
pick your
shampoo, the
poison.
soap, the makeup?
the cleaning supplies that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Again, that double exposure is really like, I don't even know the word I would use. Quadruple exposure. It's because it is. It's makeup. It's body care products. It's workplace exposure. It's home cleaning exposure. It's the tampon exposure. It's this cumulative effect. Where do you even start? Because we don't even know which one's the worst. I do believe that there are things that are causing this that we are unaware are causing it, that maybe some other people are aware cause it, but they make good money from it. So they're not really too concerned about it.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to women.
My gosh.
And since it's a long latency disease, we typically need an entire generation to get that cumulative information, according to this particular professor.
Yeah. Well, it makes a lot of sense.
I was quoting him.
That's really important. Like, I want these studies done. Breast cancer's going up all the time. I have a wife. I have 4 daughters. I have a mom and a sister. I want these studies done.
I appreciate that. This is why feminism isn't just for women. Like, men have responsibilities and relationships with women.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm gonna by extension say this. Overall, I don't think it's good at all for women to not have the type of clothing that's optimal, or the workplace temperature that's optimal, or the studies done to help women's health issues. Like, all these things that negatively affect women, not good for men. Because then men, your significant other, your daughters, your mom, your sisters, your female friends, they would be better off if things were truly equal, or equitable, I should say. And so you're probably going to have better relationships with all these people, because their lives are going to be less stressful and more like their circumstances are more attuned to them. Like, I just feel like you're going to have better relationships with them because they're in a better mental and physical state. So even looking at it from a quote unquote more like selfish viewpoint, men, in my opinion, should really care about these things, because your relationship with all the women in your life is going to be better because you're going to be happier and healthier. I hope for those of you listening, something was intriguing or sparked a curiosity, or you felt affirmed or challenged. Stay educated. Take the pink pill. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a follow and maybe a nice review.